For decades, supermodel Naomi Campbell has ruled the runway with her signature swagger. After being discovered on the streets of London when she was in her early teens, she took the fashion world by storm. She was the first Black model to grace several different magazine covers, and she quickly became a runway it girl for many top designers. Naomi's striking features and flawless figure also caught the attention of people outside the fashion industry. Music icons Michael Jackson and George Michael cast her in their music videos, and other famous men took notice in more intimate ways. Over the years, she's had relationships with numerous high-profile celebrities. Off the runway, she lived a glitzy, glamorous existence, but eventually the fast life took its toll. For years, she says, she secretly battled a substance addiction. Then, her infamous bad behavior began to make headlines, resulting in her reputation taking a major hit. Naomi Elaine Campbell was born in Streatham, South London on May 22, 1970. Her mother was abandoned by her father when her mother was just 4 months pregnant. As a result, he was never a part of Naomi's life for decades, only finally meeting when she reached her 40s. The Campbell surname came from her mother's second marriage. Her striking features are due to her Black Jamaican heritage, courtesy of her mother, and Chinese Jamaican heritage, courtesy of her maternal grandmother. She spent her early years in Rome, Italy, as well as London, studying dance from the time she was a toddler into her teens. Naturally, she always thought she'd pursue the art professionally. As fate would have it, though, she ended up being scouted by a modeling agency. Then, in April 1986, just before her 16th birthday, she appeared on the cover of British Elle. By the late 80s, she, with Christy Turlington and Linda Evangelista, had formed a trio known as the Trinity, who became the most recognizable and in-demand models of their generation. As the 80s gave way to the 90s, Naomi, Christy, Linda, Cindy Crawford, as well as Claudia Schiffer, had been given the title of supermodels by the fashion industry. With the addition of newcomer Kate Moss, they were collectively known as the Big Six. Even though Time declared the end of the supermodel era in 1998, that didn't stop Naomi from continuing her career, both on the runway and more frequently in print, into the 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. The start of a new millennium, though, would also mark the start of a string of unfortunate reports of Naomi's bad behavior. Actually, much earlier on, rumors about her volatile personality began to emerge. She would show up late to photo shoots without apology and didn't want to collaborate with other models. People magazine documented the messy falling out between her and her former agency, Elite Model Management, in the early 90s. It was a he-said-she-said battle, with each party trying to prove if Naomi had been fired for being an impossible diva or quit because of the racial discrimination she faced during her time there. The article itself is pretty damning of her, relying on testimony about her background as a poor girl from a rough part of London as evidence of her instability. In 2000, she was convicted of an assault on her former personal assistant that took place in September 1998, while they were in Toronto to shoot the film Prisoner of Love. She pled guilty to attacking the woman in her hotel room after allegedly hitting her over the head with a phone, grabbing her by her throat and shaking her. While the original case was solved, the assistant sued Naomi for an undisclosed case that was settled quietly with no details about the case being revealed. As an Oprah show camera crew waited downstairs in her home to film her for a 2006 episode, Naomi reportedly threw her BlackBerry at her housekeeper in anger. Apparently, this one was jewel-encrusted, causing enough damage to require stitches. Naomi, though, says she used a regular one. She pled guilty to this assault and ordered to attend anger management classes and perform community service, which she would turn into a circus by showing up in designer garments she blogged about on W Magazine and received lunches from her favorite restaurants. Shortly after, she wore a t-shirt with the print, "Naomi hit me," with "and I loved it" at the back. Then, in 2007, she admitted to swearing, kicking, and spitting at police officers aboard a British Airways flight at London's Heathrow Airport, who'd been called when she had assaulted 2 members of the cabin crew. She accused the airline staff of racism after she said she was disrespected when it emerged that one of her bags had not been loaded onto the flight. For that indiscretion, she was sentenced to 200 more hours of community service and fined. She was also supposed to be banned from ever flying British Airways again, but not surprisingly, several years later, she was able to do just that. In March 2010, Naomi was accused of assaulting a chauffeur in New York City, but 2 days later, he retracted the allegations. Less than 2 months after that, her temper resurfaced during an ABC News interview when questioned about a blood diamond reportedly given to her by former Liberian President Charles Taylor. Naomi walked out and allegedly punched the camera. Sadly, in between those incidents, she's said to have engaged in several more alleged assaults with other people, including former employees. While she didn't deny her past mistakes, she said in interviews that some events have been exaggerated or fabricated. She told Oprah in May 2010 that when she walked out of the ABC News interview, she never punched the camera. There definitely is sound effect added. There were 3 cameras and I went to walk out the door and the other one came in the way, so I moved the first one out to get to the door, and there were 2 more. She said she left because the interviewer began asking questions about her interactions with the former Liberian president, a man who was facing charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. While staying at Nelson Mandela's home in South Africa, Naomi says she met the president briefly. Taylor wasn't invited and none of us knew who he was. He wasn't part of our group, but he did show up and we understood who he was after it was explained. Naomi says she didn't want to answer questions about him because she didn't want to be involved in his case. Later, however, she did end up testifying at the Liberian president's trial in August of that year. Naomi also said she did not assault a New York City chauffeur in March 2010, and she did not offer him money to drop the charges. I wouldn't have given the statement if I had done something wrong. The statement said I wouldn't be held hostage to my past. Because of my behavior in my past, I will be sometimes pointed at and said, "She hit me," and I've got no proof of saying any different. During the same Oprah interview, she also admitted to her other violent outbursts. When a housekeeper couldn't find something Naomi was looking for in her New York apartment, she says she saw red. "I don't remember what it was she said to me, and I just threw the phone. I am ashamed of everything I've ever done. I take responsibility for the things that I have done, and I do feel a great sense of shame." Oprah questioned Naomi about her actions when she doesn't get what she wants. She admitted that she sees red and then just acts out. After having an outburst, though, she said she immediately regrets her actions. "I feel remorseful. I feel ashamed. I feel for them. I think, what have I done to them if I've hurt them?" She added that her issues go beyond anger management. "I think it comes from a deeper place than that with me. It comes from another type of emotional disorder, because it's not just, I don't get what I want, I throw. It comes from, I think, an abandonment issue, and it comes from also just trying to build up a family around me that's not my immediate family. And if I feel a mistrust, then I really just, all my cards go down." Her abandonment issues, no doubt, stem from her childhood. Her mother, Valerie Morris, was a teen single mother when she had Naomi. In an attempt to give her a better life, Valerie left Naomi in someone else's care while she traveled the world and pursued her dream of being a ballerina. I understand the sacrifice she had to make, so for me, I guess I want to do better. I want to be a better person. I'm not proud of the things I've done in my life, and I'm striving to be a better person and to find peace. You have to trust. I like to control everything, and you cannot control everything. You have to at some point say, I let go, and I'm going to let the cards fall where they fall. For a control freak, it's hard. Anger management, arrests, and abandonment weren't the only issues Naomi has faced. When she was 24 years old, she says she began using cocaine. "I'd always been against it, and I found myself doing 3 jobs a day. I never ever had to have a dealer, as you call them. It was always very easy to get, handed to you whenever you wanted it. It made you feel like insatiable, but at the end, it was a destroyer. It's really a devil's drug." Her recreational drug habit soon turned into a dangerous addiction. After her friend Gianni Versace was murdered in 1997, Naomi says she realized she had a problem. "That year, so many other friends passed away in different circumstances. I felt like I couldn't keep up with the grief, so I just started replacing it with drugs." After collapsing at a photo shoot in 1999, she checked into rehab. For 2 years, she quietly lived as a recovering addict. But then her secret was exposed. A tabloid printed a photo of her leaving a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Naomi sued the tabloid for invasion of privacy and won. One of her most prolific feuds is with fellow catwalk queen Tyra Banks. The two supermodels have had a long history of not getting along. In a 2005 interview on The Tyra Banks Show, Naomi said it was just tabloid fodder, spurred on by publications at the time, pitting them against each other. But Tyra asserted that Naomi had been cold towards her. Then, after nearly a decade of her name not being associated with any drama, the news broke that Naomi appeared in the alleged contact book and in flight logs of late American financier and convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, as well as in photographs with him and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. In August 2019, she addressed the relationship on her YouTube channel, admitting she knew Jeffrey after being introduced to him by ex-boyfriend Flavio Briatore, stating, "What he's done is indefensible. When I heard what he had done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else, because I've had my fair share of sexual predators, and thank God I had good people around who protected me from this. I stand with the victims. They're scarred for life. For life." However, Naomi's claims have been disputed, claiming she was aware and a close friend of Ghislaine. So far, the 2020s have been very good to Naomi. In 2021, she became a mom, announcing the birth of her daughter. 2 years later, she announced the birth of her son. Naomi confirmed that both children were delivered via surrogate.